Welcome to TradeTheNBA.com. This is John's report is for Monday, the 26th of September. No shock with any of this. The market continued to decline as it finally recognizes what's ahead. And what's ahead is a recession, which we knew way back at the start of the year. The question merely becomes how deep, how long, and what will the effect be? Of course, you also have elections happening. Of course, Italy had their election yesterday, and well, depending on what you hear, it'll be described as right wing, but really still so far to the left of center. It's strange to call it that, but when you're comparing it to the relative communists that were running things, then yeah, I guess they would be considered to the right. But that's going to create some dramatic changes, which is, indicative of why the euro has been in a tailspin, because it's just going to be more fractioning, and the question whether the euro will survive will become more predominant. Looking at the NQ, also doing, I think, a little bit better proportionally comparative to the S&P from a stability standpoint. You're still looking at NBI white leading, but it's got magenta uh, over yellow at this particular stage. We're caught in what I always refer to as a continuation zone, where orange is stuck between the red DOC and cyan. And as long as it remains in there, you tend to have a continuation. However, when you're looking at orange falling, you tend to have a little bit of rising. When it's climbing, you get a little bit of the opposite. But look at that shakeout, minus 19. A little bit further, though, and you're in an automatic reversal area. So that's something to pay attention to as we go forward. Because again, with all of these declines, there's always this back and forth bull rallies, and they're usually pretty extreme. And it's just we have to stick with what the readings indicate for us. When we're looking at the euro here, I got mocked. We were at, I think, 102, 103. Someone was, well, where do you project the euro falling to? I'm like, somewhere around 0.93, and they just thought that was the most outlandish comment in the world. Here we are, what now, down to 0.95, and really what's going to stabilize it, particularly the Italians, the elections, while they insist that nothing will change, we know it's going to change dramatically, and they'll probably use a lot of again, stimulus blowing out their budget relative to the EU's mandate. EU's already threatened Hungary by not giving money to them. They're going to do the same to Italy, and that is going to be a mess, which affects global trade as well. Gold recognizing the recession and continuing its fade off this particular stage, and without any regard for inflation on that. But this, again, also a direct relation to that bifurcation of the markets from the east to the west, and not really including anything Russia. Uh, just throws everything. Of course, we haven't been looking at real numbers coming from anywhere for quite some time. All of that data is just massaged, manipulated, adjusted, seasoned, and everything else instead of just the raw data, which more and more with the technology today, we're actually can see the raw data, and it really is a juxtaposition to what we get from a lot of the government numbers, because they've been so manipulated. From an oil standpoint, though, relief. Breaking that 80 is kind of critical. And if it stays down there, it looks pretty weak here from an MBI reading standpoint with the white leading. That will do more to help minimize a recession than anything else. Um, will it be in time and quick enough? I mean, you got to remember some of the stuff that's starting to take place now really is a development from the early gas prices because of the lag time that it takes for some of these things to work their way through. So you could be looking at one of those situations where, for the next 4 to 6 months, you get ever increasing softness, but maybe with the potential softening of oil in that you might get a turnaround come spring. The question will be the Fed and whether they'll begin easing. And from the indications they're giving, they're not going to be doing any easing. So even if things go south, they're going to be maintaining their interest rate cycle, which is kind of how it's been in the past, relative speaking. So this is sort of an expectation that there is going to be pain regardless. From a Bitcoin standpoint, still holding that 18. So done remarkably well to survive the decline that we'll see. I mean, obviously things haven't broken down yet, so there's no indication that they'll survive later in that. But also from an ETH standpoint, similar. Actually, I would say a bit stronger because it hasn't retested the lows relative to Bitcoin's doing it, and you already have the Magenta rising, so the potential for a move back up is there. From a 50K standpoint, you can see the day was just mostly south, and then right at the end, late Friday buyers caught it back up, and we're still kind of in a middle range at this particular stage. Short-term buyers really have kept this going, but now we see the NBI Magenta moving up and about to have it cross the blue, and this could be enough to give it some legs. Looks like the open purchase right there from a 50K standpoint. From a 5K, you can see how that pre-market traded very weak, and that continued pretty much across a very long and broad day, where there was just every time there was an attempted pop, you were met with NBI white leading and well over the 40 range, and that led to moves all the way back to 0+ setups, and then any of the spikes were leading with red, and those had trouble getting going. This one started off red, but then Magenta took over. You can see the effect of that, much more bullish when that takes place. So worth noting. I will be in and out relative to today. Got word that my mother passed yesterday, so some things I need to take care of dealing with that. But as always, if I can be on the Skype chat, I will certainly put up charts relevant to details. Trade well. We'll talk again later.